Namaskar to all. Welcome back to my session. Students, in the previous class, we studied about the demand. We studied what is a demand curve schedule and what are the factors that affect the demand. Also, we got to know the differences between the movements and the shifts in the demand curve. Now, in today's class, we are going to cover the price elasticity of demand. But before we move forward, as you can see over here, this is the particular. As I received few queries, I hope everyone has gone through their midterm. In case anybody wants to have online classes or any career related queries that you have regarding 11th and 12th, you can contact at this number. Okay, so let's move forward now. Okay, now price elasticity of demand, it simply says, what will be the responsiveness of the quantity that we are taking into account when the price changes. So here we are talking about when the price fluctuates, whether it increases or it decreases, how does the quantity demanded react to it. Now here we have used the term quantity demanded, right, and not the demand itself, because if you can recall, whenever a commodity is affected by the price and the quantity changes, we always denote it by the term as quantity demanded. Now you can see over here the elasticity, the word itself says that the more, let's say if a price changes by a little number, but the quantity demanded actually reacts to a greater extent, so we can say that more the response, higher will be the elasticity. Like we have a rubber band, the more we stretch it goes, and then when we leave it, it comes back to its normal position. So whenever the prices in the economy changes, so does the quantity demand react to it, and then accordingly, when there is no, even if we do not change the price, still the quantity fluctuates to a greater extent. Now there are basically two methods over here which we are covering. The first is the percentage method, which simply says that we are talking about the percentage changes in the price and the quantity demanded, right, which says that as the percentage change in the price takes place, how does the percentage change in the quantity demanded reacts to it. And this is the particular formula for this. Here it is clearly mentioned in this slide that in the numerator we will be taking percentage change in the quantity demanded divided, in the denominator we have percentage change in price, which means that due to percentage changes in the price, how will the quantity demanded react to it. But here all of us, we are taking it in the percentage terms, correct. Now if we elaborate this portion only, right, now understand, first we are taking the numerator over here. See, so percentage change in quantity demanded, if we elaborate to it, so in the numerator what do we have? We are taking whatever the new quantity that we have, which we denoted by Q2. New quantity is denoted by Q2 minus the initial quantity, which is denoted by Q1, divided by whatever your base was, that is your initial quantity, which is a Q1 into 100. Now I can, most of us, we can recall that we used to do in maths profit and loss account, and how do we used to calculate? Whatever the profit divided by the cost price into the 100, right? So similarly over here, whatever you are changes that you're taking will be in the numerator divided by what is the initial quantity to it into 100. Similarly, now let's just elaborate the denominator also, which is percentage change in the price, which is whatever your new price is there minus your initial price divided by the initial price into 100, because this they are mentioning, this particular portion, this they are mentioning in absolute terms, right, but over here this is in the percentage. So whenever this percentage method, this PED, it focuses the percentage method, and this one you can also, when we are elaborating the percentage, we come to the proportionate method, right. So we should always remember this particular formula. There are very few formulas in the elasticity and the whole chapter revolves around it. Now in this session I will be talking and covering about the numericals from simple to complex, so we can go one by one. You can see all types of questions that are covered over here, and you can also see here we have delta Q. Delta Q, this is nothing but the change in the quantity. This is nothing but your delta Q, which is nothing, Q2 minus Q1. And what is this? This is your delta P, which is P2 minus P1, new price minus initial price. Now we can, let's take one question to it and see how the question comes in the exam and how we are going to solve it. So it says, suppose initial price of a commodity X is rupees 10 and its initial demand is 50 units. So we know that Q1 and P1 are given to us as 10 and 50 respectively. Now if the price of the commodity X falls to rupees 8, which means that now the new price is rupees 8. So you always remember this, when they are saying falls to, then it means they are talking about the new price. So the demand increases to how much? 60 unit, which is the new quantity Q2. Find the price elasticity of demand using the percentage method. So all you have to do is, you have this formula with you, but you see in the question they have not mentioned in the percentage term, they have mentioned in the absolute term. So you just have to elaborate this formula, which is Q2 minus Q1 upon Q1. So you have all the values with it. So mathematically you solve and you get the elasticity of demand as -1. So please keep this thing in mind. This is just a general overview since we have just covered the formula. So we are taking a numerical and practically seeing that how, we can put the values and find out the elasticity. Now, what does this -1 signify? That is very, very important. What do we mean by -1? If elasticity is coming out to be -1, so we will now study different types of the elasticity of demand. Now, this is very important because this helps you to analyze that whatever in the numerical, the number that you're getting for the elasticity, then how can you evaluate? Is it more elastic? Is it less elastic? So this is various types of elasticity we are going to study. So the first one says perfectly inelastic demand. What does it mean? It says that you change the price to no matter whatever extent, but the quantity demanded does not react to it at all, right? So suppose, let's say in a tabular presentation we have taken over here, we have increased the prices from 50 to 60 and 60 to 70. However, the demand, it remains the same at all the prices. So what does it signify? It simply says that, you are changing the prices, but we cannot see any change in the quantity. Generally, students, this happen for the necessity goods. Like there are some goods that you want to purchase. For example, salt. You put it in all your vegetables, on your dishes, you put the salt. So no matter what the price, if it even increases by 10 to 20 bucks, still you will say that, of course, I need to consume it, I want it. Similarly, if you want medicines, if you fall sick, right, you want medicine, you want it even if the price is higher. So there are some things which you cannot avoid even if the price goes up. So still you will be demanding the same quantity which you were doing earlier. Right, and in this particular scenario, what will be the elasticity of demand? It will be equal to 0. Reason being, we just studied that ED is what? Percentage change in the quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in the price. Now let's say there is no change in the quantity, right? Which means Q2 minus Q1 upon Q1 upon P2 minus P1. I have cancelled out the 100, right? So 2 minus 2 will be a 0. So anything in the numerator that you have a 0, no matter whatever the price is, your elasticity will always come to be a 0. So that is why under the perfectly inelastic demand, your elasticity will be a 0. And how do we analyze it graphically? It will always be a demand curve which is parallel to the y-axis. It will be a vertical line. See, no matter what the prices is, you are demanding the same quantity. So over here, how will we see? We put the quantity demanded on the x-axis and the price on the y-axis. We see we have done nothing. We have just plotted these values and we got to know that we have got a, line which is parallel to the y-axis, right? Now the second one, it comes out to be the perfectly elastic demand, just opposite to it, which says that, you do not change the price, but still the quantity demanded, it keeps on changing. A consumer is rational. If they want to purchase the quantity, they will purchase it, right? Let's say if we talk about iPhones, we don't see any slash in the prices generally, maybe just by some few amount, little amount, or maybe not a little amount of also, but still we see that the quantity demanded is quite more for these iPhones. So there could be any such commodity. Generally we take comforts and luxurious items under this, that even if the prices are not changing, still the consumers are demanding more, or maybe they are demanding less, but there is no change in the price. And how does the elasticity looks over here? When you see in the denominator, what we have in the denominator, if we see, this is our formula. And in the denominator, you see 30 minus 30, the change. P2 is also 30 and initial price is also a 30. So it will, whenever something in the quantity upon the denominator is a 0, it will always be a infinite figure. Anything divided by 0 will always give you infinity, and so that is why your elasticity is an infinite number, right? And how does the demand curve looks like? Over here again, quantity demanded on the x-axis. If the quantity is this, and again the prices are set as 30, so how do we get generally a horizontal line which is parallel to the x-axis. Moving to the third type, it is the unit elastic demand. Unit elastic demand, it says that the percentage change in the demand is exactly equal to the percentage in changes in the price. And how does the demand curve looks like? It looks like a rectangular hyperbola. So over here also we have taken the same example. So you see, if the percentage change in the demand is also exactly, when you will calculate it, you can see this is your initial quantity, this is your new quantity, this is your initial price, this is your new price. You calculate it separately, you'll always find that the percentage change in the price is exactly equal to the percentage change in the quantity. And so that is why we have taken these numbers. And how does the demand curve looks like? It is exactly a rectangular hyperbola. And what is the feature, what is the characteristic of a rectangular hyperbola? It says that whatever the area on the points below this demand curve, it is the same, which means if this is our origin, so O, and let's say we take this as A and this as B. So we can say OP1 A Q1 is exactly equal to OP2 B Q2. So that is why in case of the unitary elastic demand, where the percentage changes in both the quantities and the prices are equal, we always get a rectangular hyperbola kind of a figure. And what is the value of elasticity? That is equal to 1, because if the changes are equal, you divide it by the same number. And so what you get, let's say if I say hypothetically, if the percentage change in the quantity demanded is 20% and the same percentage change in the price is also 20%, since they both are the same, so what do we get? We get elasticity as 1. So that's why under unit elastic demand, you'll get the elasticity as 1. Next we have less than unit elastic demand. Now less than unit elastic demand, it simply says that the percentage changes in the demand is less than the percentage change in the price, right? So you calculate it again. I have therefore I've put such numbers only, so you can at your own level, you can always see what kind of elasticity are you getting. You will always get the elasticity where it will be less than 1. Reason being, see, you have already said that whenever the percentage change in the demand, so what is the elasticity formula? It's percentage change in demand divided by percentage change in the price. So over here we are saying that the percentage change in the demand, this numerator is a lesser figure than as compared to the percentage change in the price. So whenever a numerator is a lesser figure as compared to the denominator, we will always get something less than 1 only. So that is why over here we will always have elasticity less than 1, which means it could be a 0.8, it could be 0.9, it can be 0.2, any such thing which is less than 1. And how this demand curve looks like? It's always a steeper curve. Why? Because the percentage change in the quantity is less. See, this change is less, however this change is more. So whenever such kind of a figure will be given, we will always get a steeper curve. And for better analysis, you can always put these numbers on the demand curve. You will automatically see that the demand curve that you are getting with these coordinates is a steeper curve. The next that we have is the more than unit elastic demand. Now under the more than unit elastic demand, it says whenever the percentage change in the demand is more than the percentage change in the price. So exactly opposite to the less than unit elastic. Accordingly, numbers have been taken, right? And what would be the elasticity over here? It will always be greater than 1, because percentage change in the quantity demanded, which is our numerator in the formula, it is greater than the percentage changes in the price. And whenever the value in the numerator is quite more than the denominator, you'll get elasticity more than 1. So the number could be 2, it could be a 4, anything like that, but it should be greater than 1. And you will always get the demand curve as a flatter curve. Just don't go by my words. You can always take these coordinates, or 20 comma 12,000 as one pointer, and 10 comma 15,000, and just draw yourself, put the quantity demanded on the x-axis and the price on the y-axis, and then evaluate what kind of a demand curve are you getting. So over here, what do we have? The change in the price, which is quite less as compared to the change in the quantity demanded, which is quite more. So whenever you will have such kind of a figure, you will always get a flatter demand curve. So this you always have to memorize, that under the perfectly inelastic, we have a vertical parallel line demand curve, which is parallel to the y-axis. Under the perfectly elastic, we have a horizontal line parallel to the x-axis. Unitary elastic gives you a rectangular hyperbola. Less than unit elastic will give you a downward sloping demand curve, which is steeper, and the more than unit elastic will give you a downward sloping demand, which is flatter. Okay, so let us discuss few numericals over here. This is quite simple. So you have been given the initial prices and the quantities. So this is your, let's say, P, this is your P1, this is your Q, and this is your Q1. Just put down in the formula, right? And always remember, students, over here, that here we are getting price as 0 automatically. So elasticity is coming out to be infinite, reason being there is no change in the price. So whenever you will do 9 minus 9, this change in price, which is in the denominator, you will get elasticity as infinite. So what does it signify? It simply says that we have a perfectly elastic demand curve, right? Next. So over here they say a 5% fall in price of a good leads to a 10% rise in its demand. Okay, they are talking in terms of percentage, fine. A consumer buys 40 units of a good at a price of rupees 10 per unit. Then they are also giving you some absolute values. How many units will he buy at a price of rupees 12? Now this 12 is the new price, so they are basically asking you to calculate the new quantity. It is not mandatory that always you will be calculating the elasticity. Elasticities, you can always put it from here. You'll get the elasticity by the percentage. See, so that is why they gave you first this statement. So you put percentage in the quantity demanded 10 divided by price as 5, you get minus 2 as the quantity, as the elasticity. And students, always remember one thing I forgot to tell you, that over here they have a minus sign, negative sign. Negative sign signifies the inverse relationship between the price and the quantity demanded. We know the fact that as the price increases, the quantity demanded will decrease, and if the price decreases, the quantity demand will increase, right? So for that matter, they are putting the negative sign over here. But and also they say, see, a 5% fall in price. Fall means that it's a negative figure over here, and there is a rise in its quantity demanded. So you will always put a minus sign, but while you are recognizing, let's say minus 2, So here you will put minus sign over here, but if someone asks you what kind of the elasticity of demand it is a more than unit elastic, because when you are analyzing and you are giving a statement what kind of elasticity is, then you will always focus on the absolute value, which is a 2. Since 2 is greater than 1, so we will say that it is a more than unit elastic demand. So please remember that. Don't get confused by the minus sign. Minus sign is to signify the inverse relationship, but to evaluate what kind of elasticity it is, you will ignore the minus sign, you will take the absolute number, and then you will tell what kind of elasticity it is. Okay, so then they are saying a consumer buys 40 units of a good. So 40 units is the initial quantity, right? Then at a price of rupees 10, new price is given, so you get the change in price, right, as rupees 2 per unit. 40 is the initial quantity. So what we did, we took the method of proportionate method where we are putting these values over here. We know that elasticity is 2. We could have either put a minus 2 here, since we have already put a minus sign over here, so that is fine. Either side you can put the minus sign. Clear? So what we did, we calculate the elasticity, we solved it mathematically, we had the Q1 number with us. This is our new quantity which we want. Initial is already given. Change in price we have just calculated, so we have directly put this value over here. We know initial price is 10, initial quantity is 2, elasticity we just calculated from here, and so we got the new quantity as 24 units. Next, the demand rises by 20% as a result of fall in its price. Okay, they have just given the percentage change in the quantity demanded. It has the price elasticity of demand as minus 0.8. Calculate. So this is very, very simple. So all you have to do is you have to use this formula, right? And then it's always, so what we did, 0.8 is given over here. We took the minus side to the right hand side of the equation, and we got to know that the percentage fall in price will be 25%. See, the demand rises by 20%, right? And already you have a minus sign over here. So what you will say, you will not put minus 25%, but you will mention in the statement that the percentage fall in the price will be 25. Okay, the price of a commodity falls from rupees 4 to rupees 3 per unit. So you have been given the initial price and the new price. Okay, as a result, total expenditure on it rises from rupees 200 to 300. Find out the price elasticity of demand by percentage method. So from this price, students, you can get the percentage change in the price, right? So over here what you have to do, this was your initial price, this is your new price, this is the total expenditure. We know that total expenditure, please you can write down this formula, is price into quantity. So you've already given the prices, you want to know what is the quantity. So what will you do? Total expenditure divided by the price. That's all that we did, and we got the new and the initial quantity. If this is your initial and the new prices over here, right? So it is quite simple. 3 minus 4 divided by 4 automatically that you have, right? And you got that the percentage change in the price is minus 25%. Percentage change in the quantity demanded is 100%. So what will be the elasticity? 100 divided by minus 25, which is a minus 4. Therefore the demand is more elastic. So it is very, very important. See, in few previous questions they were asking you about the new quantity, new price, so we were putting. Now in this question they're asking you about the elasticity. Whenever the question asks you to calculate the elasticity of demand, you always have to mention this statement. If you are not mentioning it, that what kind of the elasticity it is, like it is stating that the demand is more than unit elastic. If you are not mentioning it, you will lose 1 mark. So please do mention, since 4 is greater than 1 and we always see the absolute number, so that is why it is more than unit elastic. Next, consider the demand curve that we have. So these kind of question is also important. What will be the elasticity as at price 5 by 3? So initially, first you need to understand what kind of equation it is and what are these values. A is an independent unit, it's a constant, and over here B, it talks about the slope. Slope is whatever the change in demand will be there with response to change in the price. Right, now you have been given this equation and you have also been given the price, so you put down the price in the equation, you'll get to know the demand, right? And that is how we got to know the demand also over here, right? And what we did, they first asked you about the elasticity, but before we get the elasticity, we need to know the slope, and the slope is this B part. So what will be the slope over here? If we have 10 minus 3p, so minus 3 will be the slope of the equation, right? And what did we do then? We just simply put it in the formula, and see, minus p by q, p we already know it's 5 by 3, and we have already calculated the q part. Since the q is in the denominator, that is why we'll put 1 by 5, otherwise our quantity is a 5, and this is the slope. This b is nothing but the change in q upon change in p. This is also the way that we write the b portion. So in the equation it's a minus 3, so we have just put this value and we get the elasticity as 1 minus 1. So what do we say? We say, okay, so moving to the next numerical now. Okay, now it says that the price elasticity of demand of good X is double. Now these are few complex question. Is double the price elasticity of demand of good Y? This is one equation. A 10% rise in the price of good Y results in the fall in its demand by 60 units, which means that if 10% rise in the price of good Y, so the percentage change in the price of good Y will be 10%, and the percentage change in the price in the quantity demanded for good Y will be 60 units. If original demand for good Y was 400, so if Q1 initial quantity was 400, calculate the percentage rise in the quantity demanded of good X when its price fall from rupees 10 to rupees 8 per unit. So it's very interesting question. So first, whatever values are given to you, you can put that down, and mostly it's given for your Y. So first we will calculate. We have already been given, see over here, the this thing, it talks about demand by 60 units, right? And it also tells that a 10% rise in the price of good Y, this, right? So this is also given to you. So over here, percentage, this is already given, 10% rise in the price. We basically have to calculate the percentage change in the quantity demanded for Y, and for that values are given to us. Over here it's 60 units, and it is saying that if the original demand for good Y was 400, so 60, because demand is fall by, so it means 60 units divided by 400, if the original demand was this much, into 100. So what do we get? We get 15%. So now we have, for good Y, we have percentage change in quantity demanded for good Y, and we also have the percentage change in the price of good Y. That is already given in the question, a 10% rise in the price of good Y. Okay. So now we can calculate the elasticity for this. So the elasticity for good Y will be 1.5. So we have calculated the elasticity now. So, and also it was saying you earlier previously, just see over here, the price elasticity of demand of good X is double the price elasticity of good Y. Now you've already got to know what is the price elasticity of good Y. You can just put it down, right? So over here we have said the price elasticity for good X is double, twice the price elasticity of good Y. So 1.5 was for the price elasticity for good Y, and 3 is the price elasticity for good X. Okay? Okay. Next, moving ahead. Now percentage change in the price of good X. What is the percentage change? Over here it is also already given to you that change is what? 2%, and the initial price is 10. So you got to know that 20% is there. So therefore the price elasticity for good X is equals to the percentage change in the quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in the price. Price elasticity for good X, we've already calculated 3. These values were already given to you in the question. And we have already calculated 20%. So we got to know what is the percentage change in the quantity demanded. It is nothing but 60%. So 60% rise in the quantity demanded for good X. So students, in order to solve these questions, you have to link each and every statement. Each and every line has some meaning, and you have to calculate some value out of it. So see, the formulas are the same. We are using the same percentage method and the proportionate method. There is no different method that we are using in it, but the questions will be a little tilted. So you just have to use your brain. You have to just analyze, okay, this value is given, some is given in percentage, some is given in the quantity form, in the numerical, in the absolute form. So how do I have to link one with the other and calculate the answer, right? Okay. Now again, this is again very important, since its elasticity is related to the slope over here. So we know that when we studied the demand curve, we knew that the slope of the demand curve, some slope of demand curve is nothing, whatever we have in the y-axis, change in P divided by the change in Q. And we also know that elasticity of demand is represented by change in Q upon change in P into P by Q. So we can of course establish a relationship over here where we say that elasticity of demand is nothing but 1 upon slope of demand curve into P by Q, right? This is again, it can be used in order to solve some numbers, or you can say if they ask you in one marker that how the elasticity and slope are related, you can tell that they are inversely related. So see, what is the slope of demand curve? 1 upon change in P upon change in Q from here into P by Q. If I use it, change in Q upon change in P into P by Q. This is nothing with the same elasticity that we have calculated. So this is another slide that we have to understand. Again, very very important that it's a HOTS question, generally asked under 6 marker. Price elasticity at the point of intersection of two demand curves, right? So D1 over here is your steeper demand curve with less elastic demand. We just studied, less elastic demand has a steeper slope. And again, then we have a more than unit elastic demand curve, which is denoted by D2, and it is a flatter demand curve, right? Okay, so we say the flatter demand curve at the point of intersection has more elasticity. It's more elastic as compared to the steeper demand curve. Now let's prove this point. How is it so, right? Over here it's written, the flatter demand curve shows a much greater quantity demanded response to a price change. Therefore, it is more elastic as compared to the steeper demand curve. And why is it so? Let's first see over here the flatter demand curve, which is a D2, right? And it has a quantity, change in the quantity is 40 units. See, 60. This is, we are seeing from the point of intersection. So from 60, there is a change over here, D2. There is a change of how much? 40 units. And now let's see the change in the steeper unit. It's only the change of 8 units from 60 to 68. So which has more responsiveness? Of course, the one which is a flatter demand curve. So at the point of intersection, the flatter demand curve always is much more elastic as compared to the steeper demand curve. Again, this is our point of intersection. It is 60 over here. Any point on the flatter demand curve over here, it is meeting at a, so what do we say? The change is of how much? It is for 40 units. However, at a steeper demand curve, what is the change? It is only for the 8 units, right? Okay, now the last portion that we have is factors that affect the price elasticity of demand. Again, this has generally been asked under the 6 markers, or in pointers they might ask you. So first is the availability of close substitutes. So students, whenever close substitutes will be available, the consumer always have a choice that if a product, the price of, if let's say Pepsi is increasing, he might shift to Coca-Cola. So the demand is quite responsive over here. So whenever availability of substitutes is there, elasticity will be high. If you go to Starbucks, if you find the coffee is quite expensive, and I'm equally fine with Costa coffee also, so I can shift my preference from Starbucks to Costa, and then I can see that my quantity demanded for Costa has increased, and therefore the elasticity is high. The second is nature of commodity. Nature of commodity itself says that bread, butter, salt, all these are your necessity items. And like you can talk about flour also. So there are a lot of things that we use in our daily day-to-day life which we want to consume. We have to consume no matter what the price is. So for necessity, even if the price increases, still we are going to purchase it, right? So in that case, the demand does not increases or decreases to a greater extent. So if there are necessities, the demand will be less elastic. Comforts generally has elastic, and the luxurious items have more elastic demand curve, which means that, let's say if I say the price of iPhone has decreased by 20,000 or 10,000 rupees hypothetically, of course we will see a lot of people will start consuming it, right? So in that case, we can say that the elasticity is quite responsive to the price, so it is highly elastic, right? Next, we have proportion of total expenditure, which means how we are spending our money on the various items, right? So when we talk about the total expenditure, so greater will be the proportion of income spent on the commodity, more will be the elasticity of demand for it, right? So if we are spending a smaller proportion of our income on the total expenditure, so less elastic will be the demand for it. So this is quite logical, right? It is easy for us to understand. For, let's say if we say that the demand for goods like soap, matchbox, all of this is inelastic, as consumers, they generally spend a smaller proportion of their income, right? And whenever the prices of such good changes, consumer, they still continue to purchase almost the same quantity of these goods. So in that case, the elasticity will be less as compared to the proportion of income which is being spent more on the goods. Okay, next is habits. Is very important. It's quite understandable. If a consumer has a healthy lifestyle, healthy eating habits of fruits and vegetables, he will tend to purchase those goods no matter what the price is. And so whenever a habit is developed, the elasticity will be inelastic. Let's say if a person has a negative externality of having alcohol, tobacco, cigarettes, so again it will force him to purchase those products no matter what the prices is. So whenever a habit is developed, either a positive or a negative, the elasticity will be inelastic. And if no habit is developed, the consumer is not inclined to any such habit, he can of course purchase, and the elasticity, he can purchase relatively different goods, and so the elasticity can be more. Clear? Okay, number of uses. So let's say milk, coal, they have a lot of number of uses. So whenever the a commodity has a lot different uses, we can put its demand into different uses. So in that case, the elasticity will be more as compared to products which do not have much uses. Next is the income of the purchaser. If the consumer is rich, so it will not be affected much that if he is spending a little or a more money. So for him, the elasticity will be less elastic. But if a consumer is poor and the price of a product increases tremendously, he will, stop his consumption. The quantity demanded will decrease. So just by increase of some level of prices, the quantity demanded is fluctuating. So that will happen when the income is less. For a rich person, he doesn't care, he doesn't bother much that even if the prices have increased or decreased, his quantity demanded will not be fluctuated much, and so the elasticity will be less. Time period, another important factor. So, under whenever we have a shorter time period, in short time period, we cannot keep changing our demand. So the, elasticity is comparatively less. But in the longer period, we have that option that we can go through different products, we can try different, commodities, and so the elasticity will be more for it. Okay. The next one is the products that we can postpone for consumption. Now, the goods which are urgently needed, like let's say water, let's say, medicines. If you fall sick, you cannot say that I will, purchase my medicine 2 weeks later. You want it, you need it, right? So in that case, the commodities which are very, very urgent for them, we do not say that we cannot postpone their consumption, and therefore it has an inelastic demand. The demand does not changes no matter what the prices are. However, the commodities which we can postpone, which are not that urgent for them, we can say that the elasticity is comparatively higher. Okay, so there's one more question over here. Since we have done all the factors, let's now analyze one by one, okay, in order to wind up the session. So for salt, it says what kind of the elasticity will be. Salt is a necessity, therefore inelastic. Car is again a comfort. For some it might be a comfort, and some luxurious brands will again be a luxury, so the demand will be elastic. Okay. Electricity is again one which we cannot postpone, it is basically required, so we can say that it is elastic in demand. Next we have diamond, again a category of luxury, so it has the elastic demand. Okay, the next one is when we talk about food grains. Food grains is basically again a basic necessity over here, so that is why it is inelastic in demand. So I hope all of them are clear. I'll repeat it again. For salt, it's a necessity, therefore inelastic. Car, again comfort, luxury, depending on the income level of the people, so it's a elastic demand. Electricity, it does not have a substitute. Electricity, basically it does not has a substitute, we need it, so whenever we don't have a substitute, it's a elastic. Diamond, again a luxury, elastic. Food grains, basic, needed, necessity, therefore inelastic in demand. So I hope you are clear with today's session. We have covered a lot many factors, and I hope I've tried to cover all the portion. In case still there's any query, you can please let me know. And again, those who have still not attempted various questions of this, please do try and keep trying different questions of the elasticity of demand in order to have a hold on this chapter. And again, if in case you require any online classes, or if you have any after 12th, what subject choices you have, what universities you can apply at, or let's say what courses are available as per the stream that you have chosen, you can get in touch with me at the below mentioned number. Thank you everyone for watching the video, and please do share, subscribe to the channel, right? Thank you.